Round 4 of the candidates started with a bang. Let's take a look at the game. Anand against Kramnik. Anand has just played his knight back here, blocking a check. The player's playing fairly quickly, and suddenly it looked as though Kramnik was in trouble. You can see his queen stuck at the other end of the board. White threatens, rook takes bishop. Now, if this is protected, then g3 actually traps Kramnik's queen. But after not too much thought, Kramnik played this remarkable move, knight d4, and it was apparent that all this was probably home preparation from Kramnik. I'm not sure one discovers moves like this over the board. An incredible move. Well, first of all, knight takes bishop is threatened, so this has to be taken. And you can see that the knight move freed the bishop to come to b5. A nasty check, of course, that can't be blocked because g2 would be hanging. The queen would be protected by the rook. So the king has to come up the board. And now a check from the queen. King has to come forward. Now it looks as though white has found security. There's this clump of pieces in the middle of the board. But in fact, this is a saving move. Attacking the rook, but also attacking this square as well. So this has to be taken. And then queen g5 check. The king has to retreat, and now the position just gets repeated. Neither player can really avoid this repetition, and that was a draw. So looked very exciting, but probably all home preparation. Okay, let's take a look at the game. Mamedyarov against Andreikin. Now, Mamedyarov, I think, played an excellent game. And you can see in this position, he's in control. His pieces are beautifully centralized. Take a look at these. And he also has a pawn on c6, looking good. And black's king is very exposed. Both players running short of time here. Andreikin hit the queen with bishop to g7. And now if Mamedyarov plays queen d6, he just keeps all the trumps in his position. He's in complete control here, looks very good. Instead, he gave rather a careless check. The king came back. Now his idea was simply to take this pawn on f4. Now of course, if he keeps this extra pawn, he should be winning easily, but he must have forgotten about this move f4. You can see the bishop is pinned. Bishop can't move because of the rook. So suddenly the players down to their last couple of minutes to reach the time control at move 40, and all hell breaks loose. Mamedyarov just had to keep going. So he's got this powerful initiative. Suddenly there's a rook check threatened. But Andreikin had time to take this bishop because white's queen is threatened. A check. And now if Andreikin had played his king here, he could have saved the game. Let's take a look. Queen comes. Okay, white is a piece down, but with this move he can save the game and reach an end game. And well, this must be a draw. But instead, Andreikin played king here. A disastrous move. And in this case, black's king is simply too exposed. Mamedyarov wrapped it up in this position. Of course, if this is taken, then the pawn will go home. And, well, if the king goes back, I think there are various ways to win, but knight here looks like a good move, preventing the rook coming here. And, well, white is going to win this very easily. Pawn here is threatened, followed by winning the queen. White is going to win that. Andreikin tried king here, but this loses very simply. Pawn here threatened, the queen came back, and that was the end of that. Andreikin tried rook here, but that just got taken, and that's the end of the game. If bishop takes, rook takes, and that's that. So Mamedyarov manages to bounce back after 2 losses in a row, but Andreikin really suffering in this tournament. Okay, let's take a look at the game Aronian against Svidler. Now, this was a long and very complicated game. Svidler had played his favourite Grunfeld defence, and it was a very long and theoretical line. Aronian had sacked a piece, and you can see that he has 2 pawns in the centre of the board. Svidler's king is rather exposed. But, you know, Black's pieces, apart from his sort of wandering king and these pawns, Black's position isn't too bad. You know, he has reasonable coordination. And Aronian only has 1 pawn for this piece. And here Svidler had a big decision to make. He could give back this piece straight away with knight takes pawn. And this continuation is virtually forced. So they reach an endgame, and here material is even, but, well, I mean, it's hard to see Aronian winning with this, with white. You know, he has 2 pawns in the middle of the board, but really they're not going to get very far. And of course, in this case, Black's king is completely safe. Should be drawn. But instead, Svidler thought for some time here and played more ambitiously. He is, after all, a piece for a pawn ahead, and, you know, reasonably well coordinated. So, a really ambitious decision from Svidler, and now he brings his queen's rook into the game. Now Aronian uses his big trump. These centre pawns start to roll down the board, but Svidler confident that he can control these pawns. Okay, now we see Aronian shifting his queen into the attack, but still, Svidler has this one under control. Okay, he moved his rook into the middle. So Aronian's plan here is very simple. He just wants to push those pawns. And on they go. I mean, well, you know, it's objectively, Svidler's position is okay here, but I think it's a much more difficult position for Black to play than White. And here Svidler went wrong. At this moment, he lost his nerve. He transposed back into one of those endgames, but a far worse endgame than he could have had previously. He should have kept his nerve. If he was going to play like this, he should have just moved the king aside. Now, in this position, still very double-edged, Black's king still not completely secure because White can try to attack on these diagonals and maybe shift one of the rooks into the game. But with best play, Black should be alright in this position. But complicated. Instead, as I said, Svidler lost his nerve. He went into an endgame, gave the piece back, but in this case, Aronian is doing very well. In fact, well, Aronian took this knight back very quickly. In fact, there's a remarkable move here. Very cool move. Bishop here looks like it should be winning, actually. It's a remarkable move. If the knight moves, then you check, and these pawns actually roll through. Should be winning. And if instead the rook comes back, which looks okay because you'd think it, you know, after pawn takes, then Black should be okay. But now a fantastic move, bishop here. This bishop is working hard, and there's a deadly check. The knight is still on prise, and those pawns also look very dangerous. So Aronian missed a big move there. Instead, he took this knight, but this is also very promising for White. Now, Svidler is able to capture that pawn on f7. There's no way that White can really stop that pawn from being captured. But Aronian has a tremendous initiative here. So Svidler gets this pawn back. And now, well, this is very typical when there are bishops of opposite colour. It often means that if you're attacking, your attack gains in strength because the defender is unable to exchange bishops. And, well, that's what happens here. And you can see that, well, Black's king is under real pressure here. Okay, let's see what happens. So the rook's defended on the 7th rank. And now Aronian moving in. Now, really, Svidler couldn't do much about this. So you can see that white has a real clamp on the position. This pawn always represents a threat. You know, sometimes the rook can come here, sometimes this rook can come here. It's very nasty. And to add to matters, black's king is under threat. Now, I think a good idea would just be to try to bring the king as far forward as possible. Instead, Aronian pushed his h-pawn. I mean, Aronian was playing it very, very quickly. Again, it's a much easier position for white to play than black. But I think it seems as though he missed some good chances. But anyway, it was good enough for Svidler. Round about this moment, there's actually a very clear win for white. Aronian pushed the h-pawn, but he should have just pushed the rook like this. Well, obviously, if this is taken, then the rook comes in and you take this, and that's going to be too much. So instead, if the king comes back, rook here, so hitting the bishop and the rook preparing to come to c7. So if this is taken, and this is the point, the bishop is attacked. When it moves, there's simply this move, picking up the exchange, and actually this is quite a simple winning position for white. So Aronian, now I've seen this before in his play. Sometimes when he gets a winning position, he just keeps playing too quickly. So he pushed the h-pawn. Now Svidler should have really captured this, and I suppose Aronian still has this move, rook e7 check. But instead, Svidler pushed the a-pawn, and now it should be fairly easy. Maybe, well, probably Svidler should take this pawn, but it must be a winning position for white after this. Instead, Svidler recaptured, and now this is decisive because white is picking up the g-pawn. There we go, it drops. And black's problem is that his king is still under fire. And in this position, Svidler actually resigned. I mean, slightly premature maybe, but, well, he was just getting rolled away here. Let's just see what would happen. First of all, white is threatening rook g6 check. And when the king goes back, that's rook h8 is mate. So the rook really has to retreat. And now white just has to continue with his initiative. So g4, very powerful move. And here's the idea. Well, let's see what happens if black plays in the most obvious way, pushing on the queen side. And now we can see why white has advanced the f-pawn, because it supports this rook, and that's the point. So the f-pawn supports the rook on g6, and when the king retreats, then rook e6 check is really the end. Black could defend a little better than that, but you can see how strong white's initiative is, and it must be a winning initiative. So a great victory for Aronian there. An uneven game, no doubt about it. Svidler could have defended better. Aronian could have maybe finished the game off a bit better, but still, not good victory for Aronian. So the scores after 4 rounds are Anand leading on his own with 3 out of 4. Kramnik and Aronian on 2.5, Topalov and Svidler on 2, Karyakin and Mamedyarov on 1.5, Karyakin drew with Topalov, and Andreikin at the bottom of the tournament with 1 out of 4. Thanks for watching.